Hello and welcome. My name is Matthew Hendrik. I am the Senior Area Manager at PressReader. For those out there that don't know what PressReader is or have never heard of PressReader, we are a newspaper and magazine catalogue servicing the library industry all across the globe. So that could be the government, public, as well as the academic libraries. PressReader houses over 7,000 different newspapers and magazines from 150 different countries in 70 different languages. Now today I'm very excited to speak to you guys about the future of the academic library and how academic libraries can succeed in the COVID world that we find ourselves in. So I'm going to start with a bold but true statement that librarians are always right. So back in 2012, OCLC conducted a survey in the USA, which found that most academic libraries thought the primary reason students and staff would use their services, so borrowing materials, would actually shift from the brick and mortar library to an online experience. Now, with this, when COVID hit, those institutes and those schools that had already shifted to an online presence were so much better prepared when COVID hit, and they were able to adapt to the new world that we were all living in. But unfortunately, there's not enough academic libraries that had made that shift and were thinking about the student and the experiences that they were going through with COVID, and they're being more wrapped up in their own priorities. Now, these priorities were always driven by what a library should be, the brick and mortar. Every priority listed in this survey here are all internal library goals rather than a student or a faculty goal, and the goals that they should be based on their experience. While it's clear that libraries and librarians emphasize on the capabilities of research and one-on-one education, they're not as concerned with the overall user experience. And now this has become more and more evident today with the COVID world that we live in. And a academic library that really shifted the way that they were delivering information was the Johns Hopkins University through COVID. So even with the empty campuses, librarians took it on themselves to check in with the student, to actually try and deliver that content to them when they needed it. So if there was a resource that the student that needed, the librarians would actually go and get it for them and deliver it to them online. But the problem is that not every single academic library has the resources that the Johns Hopkins University has. Not everyone can jump on a phone and spend that time with each student to deliver them an experience and deliver that content to them. And that's the thing. There has been a dramatic change in the way people discover and access content now. If you look at how we consume our media, how we consume videos, music, news, journals and magazines, it's all about the experience. It's all about the instant gratification. It's all about relevancy, perspective and trust. And so the thing is that there's two things that brings this together. That is the technology, the choice, and the convenience. And because there's been a massive dramatic change in the way that people discover and access content, there's been a shift and it's had a major impact on how business models and across many industries have been transformed. So you go from owning to sharing. So you go from buying things to buying experiences. You go from paying for the whole to paying for a piece. You go from having an individual subscription to an all-you-consume subscription. COVID-19 was the catalyst, and libraries really do need to shift gears now. They need to be thinking about the way that humans behave and access content, because if they don't adapt to this, they will be left behind. Brick and mortar libraries are consistently competing with the Googles, with the search engines of our life. And unless we adapt and offer different online resources to our students, the library is going to be left behind and become redundant. So think about all the schools at the moment that have brought all their classes online due to COVID. They are still making themselves relevant in this COVID world that we're living in. So what I want you guys to think about is, how do you see your own library fitting in this scenario? And how will you adapt to an online resource? So online classes is not the same as a physical class, but unfortunately, in the COVID world that we live in, sometimes this isn't possible, and the academic community is adapting to this. But in the past, libraries thought that offering a few selected printed magazines lying around the library with some newspapers was sufficient to support the student body as well as the faculty. But unfortunately, that isn't enough in today's climate. The expectations are higher. So just like Netflix answered it for video, and Spotify for music, and Amazon did for books, Press Reader has for newspapers and magazines. If I can work from home, children can learn from home, or students can learn from home. The technology is already here, and Press Reader can aggregate content based on that student's likes and dislikes. So, and they can access it from home. So they can do it through URL referrals. They can do it through barcode authentication. So like a library card and that type of thing. And that is what's great about machine learning. They can give the right content at the right time. It's specific to the individual, as like Netflix is and Spotify is. It's your section. So the way that this can work is a strategy that is preferred by a majority of people, particularly the younger or the tech-savvy ones. And people who use news aggregators believe that algorithms help them find a broader range of content, that brands that are based on their interests and preferences, and information that is more on topic and driven, that is not bias guided. And the source of the habit ultimately is convenience. So it's the job of you guys, the academic library, to recommend or bring the right content to the students. Now the question is, how should you guys as librarians adapt, or libraries adapt? You guys need to start thinking outside the box and start looking at ways that you guys can adapt to ensure that the library is not forgotten about. And the way that you can do that is by switching gears. Go from a collection-centric institution to a person-centric experience, and offer a platform or office a service that is more guided by the person's interest or the student's interest itself. Now it is time for you guys to take charge as librarians in these current times. So start looking at investing in comprehensive and more user-friendly platforms that can help students navigate through an ocean of data and discover the right content when they need it. Inspire, entertain, and engage. Become a central hub that facilitates learning in all its forms, so that it could be face-to-face, experimental, or online. It could be peer-to-peer or even peer-to-faculty collaboration and sharing. Become an experimental destination where the act of discovery is exciting and educational. Foster a sense of community within your library and take it online outside the physical library itself. So guys, there's no need to reinvent the wheel here. Look around. A lot of you guys have those foundations necessary to make it all happen. It's not about rebuilding the libraries from the ground up. It's about adapting to what libraries are already doing and evolving to think about the user as the me generations, where personalized experiences and services are in high demand. This quote here was taken from our CEO of Press Reader International, Nikolai Malirov, which librarians need to get the right content in front of the right student at the right time through the right channels. How fitting is this in this COVID world that we live in? The COVID era is a big hurdle to overcome. If academic libraries are willing to adapt to one of the biggest changes in our industry, they're prepared for anything else in the future. Thank you so much for your time today. You've been great.